Hello, and welcome to Yaroke Academy of Healing, Expanding, Spiritually Transforming, and Mastering Energetics. I'm Yaroke, your host, your guide, if you will. Leadership mentor, nervous system genius, spiritual teacher, clinically trained therapist, and energetic sorceress, which just means I'm a master of energetics and the subtle energy that creates your life through your patterning in your nervous system. Today, we're going to dive into a super potent, powerful, and important topic. The ways that your protective patterns in your nervous system will be mirrored by your environment so that you can be activated, triggered, so that you can actually heal them. Apparently, my cat wants to be involved for this one. Everyone, this is Aslan. Say hello. Okay, are we ready to dive in? So, if you are not familiar with the nervous system, you may want to go watch my video, Nervous System Healing the Yaroke Way, but just a brief explanation of the nervous system. Your nervous system is what creates your life because your body will only allow you to do what your nervous system feels is safe, which means your brain will only allow you to do what your nervous system feels is safe. And so most people are running around the world in scarcity and survival and contraction because they have unprocessed trauma coded into their nervous system. So let's take a look at this very quickly. Here is our nervous system, our beautiful nervous system in all its glory. It runs through your body and it connects to your spinal cord and your brain. And this is literally what creates your life. And as you can see, it's meant to flow. It's meant to have expansion. It's meant to flow. And when it is not in flow, there are kinks that happen that create protective patterns within it. So imagine in one of these spots where it is supposed to be flowing, there's a kink that happens. You experience a rejection in childhood, and all of a sudden it starts to create a protective pattern. Just visualize that. And we'll go with rejection. So it starts to create this protective pattern. And then your nervous system, in its brilliance and genius, says, okay, well, being rejected isn't safe because it doesn't feel safe to the body, which trauma is actually not what happens to you. It's whether or not you're empathically witnessed afterwards. Trauma is also a disconnection from self, which is a disconnection from the present moment. I'm going to say that again. It's a disconnection from self, which is a disconnection from the present moment. So you experience this rejection or perceived rejection because it could be a perceived rejection. Your nervous system then registers that as a threat, codes that trauma into your nervous system and starts to create a protective pattern so that you don't experience the rejection again. Now think about what this does to your being. It literally creates stuckness in your body. Because if you're unable to experience rejection, you're unable to expand in your life because with expansion will come rejection. That's just the natural state of what it is to put yourself out into the world. Anytime you put your heart out into the world, you're going to experience pain, heartbreak, rejection, potentially betrayal. That is the path to transformation. We always talk about becoming conscious. The path to consciousness is actually transforming all of this coded trauma into from your nervous system so that you are free. And being internally free means you're able to be with it all. So that means you're able to withstand if you experience a perceived rejection. What do you make it mean about you? And then your nervous system is like wound tight and it's like, nope, that's not safe. So I'm not going to put myself out there. I'm not going to share my wisdom. I'm not going to open my heart. I'm going to shut down. I'm going to scroll on my phone. I'm going to binge TV. I'm going to stay in this little box that feels very safe. I'm not going to try for a better job. I'm not going to expand my business. I'm only going to go to where I feel safe. This could apply to literally anyone because it doesn't matter at which point you're at, you're going to have what Gay Hendricks calls an upper limit problem. So your nervous system will only allow you to go to a certain limit before it's outside of its window of tolerance and it thinks we can't go there anymore. And what will happen when we have these protective patterns that show up, and they're going to look like our defense mechanisms. So it could be perfectionism, it could be obsessing, ruminating, overthinking, judging, comparing, shutdown, binging TV. These are also addictive behaviors and maladaptive coping mechanisms. It's going to be anything that protects you from actually getting honest and doing the thing that feels scary and that pushes your nervous system to expand. So, what you need to do is you need to identify the pattern, and you'll be able to identify the pattern by the ways that it's showing up in your external world. So you will be met with opportunities where maybe you will be rejected, right? Once you have the nervous system capacity to hold that, the universe always knows, it will give you experiences where you actually are being rejected. And then you get to decide what you make it mean about you. Are you going to hold on to the protective patterning and make it mean something about you and tell the story of, oh, this always happens, I can't trust anybody, I can't put myself out there into the world? Because if you create those stories, they're then being confirmed in your nervous system, and your nervous system is continuing to lock into that pattern, and then you're going to perpetuate this perception. Now, here's the thing about perceptions. We love to be right. It makes your ego feel really safe when you're right. So even if it's painful, if you get rejected again, that feels safe to your nervous system because it's like, see, I knew that was going to happen. And then your quote unquote perception is right. And we will actually we prefer unconsciously, of course, because you're probably arguing with me thinking, Yarrow, that's not true. I don't want to be right. I promise you do. And you would rather be right than actually experience something better. This happens all the time when I see with my clients in relationships where they're like, well, he's not going to do this or she's not going to do this. And if they open themselves up to the potential that the person will do it, if the person actually does do the thing that they want them to do, then their ego feels threatened and they feel vulnerable because then they have to receive love. That's a whole other video, y'all, on being able to receive love. So we want our perceptions validated. And so here you are, there's this pattern in your nervous system of how you show up in the world. It keeps getting validated in the world. Your perception is then validated. You feel like you're right. You feel justified. And then you actually never shift. And so when it shows up in your world, this is something I work on with my clients all the time. Their fears will show up, their perceptions will show up. We have to be willing to soften our ego's grip on being right around the perception to get underneath that to the emotion. So, what emotion are you feeling? So, if you get rejected, you're probably feeling pain or sadness or shame. You might be feeling shame. And we will defend against shame like no other. But when you defend against shame, you defend against when you avoid your shame, you avoid yourself. So, defending against shame is actually defending against your greatest expansion in the world because your shame tells you so much about the places that you hide. And anywhere that you hide is going to show up unconsciously in your reality, or people are going to pick up on it in their empathic receptors in their brain, and they're going to treat you the way that you actually feel about yourself. They're going to treat you the unconscious ways you feel about yourself, not the conscious ways you feel about yourself, the unconscious ways. So you want to get to the emotion, whatever the emotion is. Process and metabolize the emotion through your body. Then you want to notice the protective pattern that comes up. Oh, when I perceive I'm being rejected, I go into hyperindependence. I become controlling. I go into perfectionism, whatever it might be. What is it actually what's the belief you're carrying around this wound, around this perception? So is it I can't trust people, or nobody's going to accept me, or nobody's going to choose me, or I'm not going to be seen, whatever that perception is. You have to be able to release that because it's all protective. And all of these protective patterns are literally just creating stuckness in your life. So your sweet nervous system is doing everything it can to create safety for you, but it's also keeping you stuck. And so the path forward is creating enough internal safety in your body through chanting, meditating, yoga, being held, being seen, being attuned to, and working with someone who is going to call you out on these sneaky protective patterns. These protective patterns are so sneaky. And this is what we do in my 12-month, 6-month, or monthly group program, group mentorship program, The Portal. We guide you to feel safe so that you can shift how you're relating to the world. So if you're interested in that, you can reach out to me on Instagram, send me a direct message, comment Portal below in the comments, and I will send you the details, because we all need a space where we're held and where we're seen and where we're called forward into our greatest divinity. Your nervous system has been drenched in survival for thousands and thousands of years. That's how it knows safety, through survival. And those protective patterns feel very safe to your nervous system. I can't trust people. I'm going to be rejected. I'm going to make a fool of myself. I'm going to be judged. I'm going to be criticized. And then how that feels in our body is like a deep threat in our being. And so we continue these perceptions, we continue these patterns, whatever they might be. It might be creating chaos. It might be gossip or drama or talking shit about people. It could be so many different things. It's literally how your nervous system knows safety, the protective patterns, and it will show up so many places. Like with my clients all the time, we will see something in their life that's repetitive, right? A repetitive situation. And it's always the universe asking you to look at the protective patterning that it's trying to crack apart. It's trying to break it open so that you can feel free. But you have to be willing to see it differently, because so often things happen in our lives and we just go into victim mode, like, oh, why is this happening to me? Or this always happens, or of course this happened, or I knew I was going to be right. There's that need to be right, that perception that we become very addicted to being right. I'm an Aquarius and a projector in human design. I love to be right. I get it. However, you have to be willing to be wrong. Because when your perception is from your negative mind, which is wired from your nervous system's survival, when that is how you're viewing the world, and then you're always validated for being right, you're actually just living a miserable existence. So you have to be willing to be wrong. You have to be willing to soften, to come from an open heart, to be vulnerable, to release the protective patterning, to be willing to look at when the wound is activated. So if you are rejected, what is the story you tell? Do you go into that victim space? Do you shut down? Do you go into protection? Or do you let yourself feel the emotion, the pain, the shame that needs to be felt, that probably has needed to be felt for thousands of years, at least from childhood? But my belief is that all trauma is carried over, and it's all a thread of the same lessons or wounds that lessons that need to be learned, initiations we need to go to, wounds that need healing and to be salved. It's all the same. And so when you are rejected, we're just using rejected as the example, what is the protective patterning that comes up? Are you able to soften and get to the emotion, metabolize the emotion through the body, release the protective patterning, keep your heart open, and to trust in the unknown? Because literally all magic happens in the unknown. And you can't create a new way of being if you're holding on to these protective patterns. So I ask you to look at, what are your protective patterns? What is the thing you're most scared of? Is it rejection, judgment, criticism, loss, abandonment? What's the thing you're most scared of? How does the protective pattern that you have created in your nervous system protect you, quote unquote, from experiencing that? But how is that actually just perpetuating your own suffering, because it's keeping you stuck and you're still experiencing that wound getting activated through various different events in your life? Maybe you actually are rejected. Maybe you are judged. Maybe you receive negative comments on your Instagram. Maybe you have a client who ghosts you and it triggers your abandonment wound. Maybe you get ghosted in dating. Maybe you go on a few dates and then the person stops talking to you, and this happens repetitively. We then have to look at what wound is being constellated. What is the protective pattern that wants to come up when the wound is being constellated? How do we get underneath that protective pattern and process the emotions, connect back to the present, which is through the body? And I just take a breath to land in that, which is through the body. Allow ourselves to metabolize the pain or the shame, to integrate all parts of us, to attune to our inner child, and to feel safe to actually show up with our heart open and to trust that we are creating magic. And the evolution of this is going to be your wounds will get constellated. You will get triggered. There is information in those triggers. I'm going to do a whole other video on triggers. Your greatest gold is in your triggers. And when you get triggered, you have to look at what protective patterning wants to come up. How does your nervous system want to keep you safe? And what do you need to do to create enough safety to get underneath that protective pattern, process and metabolize the emotions through your body, come back to neutral, open your heart, take aligned action from your intuition. Intuition also is going to be a whole other video, and to trust that you are able to create magic even when you're experiencing deep pain and all you want is to protect yourself from that emotion, and learning to feel safe to be with that emotion, to allow it to process through your body, to trust that you can release the protective patterning and to show up differently and really actually embody a whole new way of being. A whole new way of being. If this resonates and you want to go deeper, join us in the portal, my 12-month, 6-month, or monthly group mentorship program. Right now, we are in July. We're doing intimacy, desire, and pleasure. We're doing my program, The Juicy Nectarine, Becoming the Juicy Nectarine. Who is the Juicy Nectarine? You are. Juicy Nectarining is being able to flirt with the world and create intimacy and desire in every moment of your life. August is going to be super freaking powerful. We are going to do embodying your highest self at a nervous system level. You can't actually access your highest self unless you access it through your nervous system. And most people just try to do it from an intellectual concept, and they miss out on this potent access point of truly embodying, moving as your highest self. So thank you for being here. If this resonates, please share it with your friends, comment below, let me know all the things. I want to hear your notes. I want to hear what you wrote down. I want to hear your homework. I want to hear how you're integrating this. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next episode.